Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Centrick Talks Property. Today we are super excited to have Andy Street with us, who's been the Mayor of the West Midlands since 2017. He's done some incredible things after his very successful career at John Lewis, ended up being the Managing Director of what was the UK's leading retailer. Andy's done some incredible things for the West Midlands over the last 4 years, so we're really keen to get under the skin and have a chat about what's in the future for us as well. If you like what you see and you want to find out more about the property market or what's happening in your area, then do subscribe to our channel on YouTube. But in the meantime, let's get into the episode. So welcome, Andy. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're a very busy man, so I'm really pleased you could squeeze us in your schedule. We've got a lot to get through, so we kick straight off with some of the questions that come in from our clients and database. So first one I suppose I wanted to ask actually was, you had an incredibly successful career at John Lewis, one of the UK's leading retailers, climbing what looked like almost every position from 1985, I believe. Yeah. So what was the desire to go and run for Mayor of the West Midlands?
Well, perhaps the first thing I should say, just Andy, thank you very much for having me here.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to our chat. Loving your swanky offices, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Smart.
Very
good.
Yeah, very kind.
Anyway, so to answer your question, it was really very straightforward. For 30 years, I've worked for John Lewis, moving my way up, as you say, but I've been the boss for 10 years. And that's a long time to be leading a company. So I was just beginning to think, maybe I've done this. But the real thing was, there was this wonderful new job about being Mayor of the West Midlands. And I just thought, I can't let this opportunity pass by simply because I felt our region could do better. There should be better opportunities for youngsters. And I just thought, come on, if you've learned anything in business, go and apply it to this new opportunity. And of course, as well, perhaps lost in the story, I'd also been chair of the local enterprise partnership here for 6 years before. So I'd seen how the economy of their place was working. Yeah. So that's what made me think, yeah, I can do something with this.
Brilliant. Make a difference.
Make a difference is exactly right.
Okay, brilliant. So you were successfully appointed in 2017. Mm-hmm. There's been many highlights and talking points through that journey. But what would you pick out as probably your greatest achievement, or the one you're most proud of during your tenure and to date?
Yeah, I guess it's not one thing. It's much more an attitudinal thing, which is made up of a number of things. This place has begun to learn how to win again. It used to really frustrate me in the years of the noughties when we'd apply for things, get overlooked, some investment would go to Manchester, and I'd think, how are we not putting our case?
City.
Yeah, exactly. But in 2017, we won the City of Culture for Coventry. The Commonwealth Games was awarded to Birmingham. Yeah. Then, of course, we got the 5G test bed, which is really important, massive. A competitive thing. Yeah. And we'll only know the significance of that in years to come. And of course, then HS2. It wasn't quite a competition, but we needed to persuade the government to make the investment. So I really feel we've learned how to win. And we sort of expect it almost going forward now. And
interesting.
That's a big psychological change, because you know this from any business or any sports team or anything. You've got to feel confident. Yeah. And I genuinely think that confidence has come back.
Should Gareth Southgate be worried?
No, definitely not. His job is an undoable job, and I happen to think he does it brilliantly.
Brilliant. Okay. Moving on to the city then. Obviously, you're very passionate about Birmingham, we can see, and also the West Midlands. The big city plan, I know you mentioned, obviously, it's not necessarily something from the combined authorities, but something that's going to drive our city forward, I think, and the wider region. So what do you think the key features are and the benefits that our region will see from that plan?
We had a big city plan put forward by the City Council in 2010, I think the first one was. And what was so very, very good about that, and actually it's been between both parties, not a party political point here in any way, is we had a master plan, an idea, things fitted together. And so steadily, each bit of it has been coloured in. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the work on the Paradise development that the LEP actually supported, funded there, and then you saw how that fitted with remodeled Centenary Square, and then of course it fits with all the work that's been done into the city core, you might say Grand Central. So it was about a jigsaw being fitted together, and that's what I think the real value is. If you just do things randomly with no idea of the total picture, you get it wrong.
Disjointed city
absolutely.
Almost.
And what's so exciting now, and it's not all done by any means, and some places are on the up, others are on the down, but if you walk all the way from Five Ways right across to Millennium Point, the bits you can see how the bits are going to fit together. And that's the breakthrough thinking.
Definitely. Brilliant. Okay. Green spaces come into that massively as well within our cities and our towns. And I know the Green Space Pledge is a big thing on your radar. I saw recently you starting to plant 1,000 trees in Coventry.
Yes.
Is it Linear Park, the new
Pocket Park
in Coventry, which is great. Why do you think green space is so important for our cities, and what must we do to protect the ones that we already have?
Really interesting question, Andy. So, and there's probably 3 different bits to this. First of all, we've got to protect the green belt that sits around the edge of the conurbation.
Yeah.
And when you talk about my pledge, it's actually a green belt pledge to make sure our redevelopment, particularly of housing, occurs on derelict old industrial land.
Yeah.
So we keep that green belt.
Recycled almost.
Absolutely recycled. And of course, it brings communities back to life. And some of these places have looked out at derelict space for 30 years, and we're bringing that back.
Yeah.
Phoenix 10 in Walsall, the Longbridge West Works, of course, that brilliant development in Sandwell Friar Park. So that's important. But then within our urban spaces, we've also got to protect the green spaces that are there.
Yeah.
And that's so important. If you think of the lesson of the pandemic, we've all, frankly, had better health, physical health, mental health, if we can get out and about in green space. So looking after those, resisting the temptation to develop them. And then the last bit, of course, is introducing new green space.
Yes.
And the planning processes have got a key role in this. And that one you're referring to in Coventry, really exciting.
Yeah.
In a big housing redevelopment, right through the middle of it, a new park, we're planting the trees to bring greenery right to the middle of the city.
Yeah.
And to be fair, some of the plans for Birmingham and the Black Country all have the same idea.
Yeah.
Introduce greenery in the redevelopments. I was out just this morning at Portloop, the development out in Ladywood, Rotten Park. And that too, a brilliant new urban park there right in the middle of the development.
Yeah.
So we're getting that much more right than we were some years ago.
The blend almost of property but needing the amenities.
Exactly.
Very
so.
important. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'd agree. Moving then on to carbon neutral cities almost. I think Birmingham themselves announced a bit of a climate emergency back in 2019 with a pledge to be carbon neutral by 2030, which is a very ambitious pledge, far ahead in advance of the actual government's one, I believe. So what's your view on that, I suppose? What can we expect to see changes happening around us in the cities and our suburbs? And what can we do to play our part as well as a community and a public?
Oh, wow. Great question. I hope you're ready for the last bit of the answer. Okay, so you're right. National Government committed to 2050 as the carbon neutral target. The Combined Authority also declared its climate emergency in the summer of 2019. And then we went on to work out scientifically when we could get to carbon neutrality by. And we settled on 2041. And the critical thing is, it's still ambitious by national standards, but we believe it to be really realistic if we invest behind the critical elements of it. And let's talk about those. There are 3 key areas, because each contribute about a third of the carbon emissions. Very simple thinking. Third from transport, third from housing, third from industry. Okay. We've got to act on all 3. And the single biggest thing around transport is, of course, sadly, people getting out of their car, using sustainable public transport, or if you insist on using your car, having an electric vehicle going forward. Yeah. So in terms of public transport, that's where the Combined Authority has the lead responsibility. Okay. And the good news is we've now got about £1 billion of investment live in clean transport across the region. And I'm sure we might talk a little bit about transport later on. Yeah. But getting people to use that as they were before the pandemic, huge increase in rail usage, metro usage and bus usage, all going the right way. So that's the first thing. Okay. But then green cars, really important. And of course, the electrification of our automotive industry is important as well. Second thing is all this about domestic homes. And you all know this given your business. Old homes, very energy inefficient. So what we want to get to is what I call retrofitting on steroids, a mass movement to get our old home stock insulated, double glazed, have new boilers, new heat pumps, gas, different form of moving gas to hydrogen. So all of those things, and the Combined Authority will step forward with a sort of demonstrator to show what could be done there. And then, of course, there's the decarbonisation of our industry,
Yeah.
starting off with the electrification of the automotive industry. And that's why we talk about this gigafactory, the battery factory in Coventry. That's where that fits into that.
Okay.
So a lot that can be done. So what can citizens do? Well, they can use the public transport rather than their car. That's the most obvious things.
Yeah.
Or use their legs or their bikes or the e-scooters. Anything you're doing to not using a polluting car is making a contribution. Or in your home, use less energy in your home.
Yeah.
So everything from getting your loft insulated to...
And will there be grants around for that? Because we've seen some come and go in terms of grants to improve your existing properties, as you say.
Yeah.
And that can be a real push for people to go ahead and get those done.
Yeah, now this is a tricky issue because the government set up what they call the Green Homes Grant. That was announced last year, but they've actually said it's going to be suspended because it's not being taken up well.
Yeah.
So what we need to push for regionally is for our equivalent of that. So we're lobbying government to devolve the cash so we'll be able to do that.
Can be regionalised.
That's what we want. I am sure that the government have to step forward again. They can't just accept that it's not going to, because it is mission critical for the climate
And did they pull
emergency.
that because of lack of interest then, or lack of take-up, as you said?
Yes, it wasn't taken. And it's desperately inefficient because it's lots of sort of individual people coming forward. You've got to concentrate this, both in terms of geographies and, of course, the depth of all the change. So I think there's a different model to do this, whereby we sort of congregate it much more to get much more deep-seated change.
Interesting. Because, we discussed the Green Energy Grant recently, actually, and there's a real lack of knowledge from the public that it's out there. And I think that's part of the problem, is educating the public on what grants or options are out there for them.
And, of course, it also gets taken up by those who can afford to pay.
Yeah.
They have also got to think about the homes where people can't afford to pay.
Of course.
So there's a social issue there as well.
Brilliant. Very interesting. Transport then.
Yes.
Huge part of what you've been up to since 2017. Some huge wins, I suppose. Some of the recent ones that we've seen that you can obviously tell us a bit more about is the West Midlands Cycle Hire Scheme.
Yeah.
We've seen that Coventry's been granted the all-electric bus city, which is really important, I think, in us moving forward. Obviously, we've seen in our cities the cycle lanes have popped up over the last 12, 18 months. Some road users not so satisfied, but there's a bigger picture, I think, in going back to what we said, what can we do? The metro has been a huge success and there's lots more to come, so I'm sure you'll elaborate on that. And then also, I think the approved light rail transport in Coventry.
Yes.
So give us a rundown of a few of those, I suppose.
Well, there's a lot there, but you are right on all of them. And I think what comes out from that is we've got real momentum now. There's lots happening in different ways to create an overall transport system. So some of the highlights, railways we might start with first of all. So obviously we've got agreement now for the reopening of the
Kings Heath and Moseley.
The Camphill line to Moseley, Kings Heath, Sturchley. That's so important because that's been closed for so long. We've got agreement to the reopening of the Walsall-Wolverhampton line.
Brilliant.
Important. And of course, we'll now be applying for 18 more stations through the government's Restoring the Railways Fund. So that's good. Then on the metro, as you say, the extension out to Edgbaston is going to open this year, as it will to Wolverhampton Station. But the two really big lines are the fully funded line out through the Black Country to Dudley and then on to Brierley Hill to regenerate those towns. And then, of course, we've now got the extension in East Birmingham out to Digbeth High Street. And then eventually, not yet funded, we will go out through East Birmingham to North Solihull, Chelmsley Wood, and then down to the airport that way.
Brilliant.
So we want to move to a network, not just a single line. And I think that's been a step change, really.
Definitely.
Then, as you say, the cycle hire's coming. It's live in Sutton, Wolverhampton, Coventry, Solihull, Dudley, and Walsall are next. And then lastly, the big one, Birmingham. But it's all in the matter of the next few weeks. And so the Boris bikes come to the West Midlands.
Hooray!
So that's good. And then you also mentioned, obviously, within that, the Coventry all-electric bus scheme. Yes. This is all part of the Clean Public Transport, a national competition, going back to my earlier point about winning. And Coventry scooped the pot in terms of the complete conversion of all of its vehicles to be fully electric. That's about 300 vehicles, and it's about £135 million. So it's a lot of money.
Definitely,
The government's putting in 50 million of
Brilliant.
that.
Excellent.
So, lots going on, to say the least, Andy.
E-scooters. Controversial at the moment. Some love them, some hate them.
Yes.
Where are you on it?
I
What's
love
your
them.
opinion?
I mean, I was the person who sort of drove this.
Yeah.
Yes, each local authority then had to give the final permissions, but it was the discussion with DFT that said we'd be the trial. And Yeah, it's again about an alternative, a choice. And I think if I told you there'd been 80,000 unique journeys just in Birmingham,
Wow.
you would see that there is a real uptake for them.
Real
and even
need
if just a
and-
tiny proportion of them would otherwise have been using a polluting car,
Yes,
it's a good move
taxi
forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love them. I think we're all for them.
Yeah.
You know, we're here in Birmingham. We're seeing them in Coventry as well, in Nottingham. So the cities are starting to get really full of them. And I think they're a really good, like you say, an alternative, because I think before, you know, everyone would say, oh, getting on the bus, not very pleasant, you know, some of the rundown buses that you get on. But all these things that are coming together are changing that perspective of public transport.
It's an alternative, but we mustn't allow you to say rundown buses, because no longer is that true. You've seen a huge investment in the rolling, in the quality of the vehicles here. And that encourages people to get on them.
Exactly.
And we've frozen fares, of course. So they've not gone up in 4 years with National Express.
Brilliant.
And of course, we have an utter commitment to every single vehicle on the road here. By the end of this year will be a clean vehicle, so either brand new or with the retrofit to satisfy Euro 6. So no polluting buses by the end of this year.
Brilliant. Well done. Kings Heath and Moseley then. We'll touch on those a little bit more, because there was a stage where funding wasn't secured and there was a lot of talk, will it, won't it happen?
That's right.
Also, what do you think that will do to the property prices and the demand in that area? Because we think that's going to be massive.
So it's interesting, as a property agent, you ask me that question. So
Leading you down the line slightly.
You are right. It was a long time in coming, this. So the last election, I said I would get this sorted. Frankly, no one had done anything to get it sorted before then. People had talked about it for 20 years, but no one had put together a proposal. And it might just be interesting to say a little bit about what had to be done. We had to get agreement from Network Rail that the thing could be reopened. Had to get agreement from West Midlands Trains that they could run a timetable, fit it in with the existing timetable, of course. Then, of course, we had to get the planning permission, make sure everyone's content. And in Moseley, that was hotly contested, I can promise you.
I bet.
Oh, yes, all the cycling provision to get perfection there. That was good community involvement. And then, of course, critically, we had to get the business case agreed.
Of course.
And ultimately, that's central government. And we've put in about 20 million of our own money. And it was only at the budget at the beginning of March that we finally got the green light from central government for that funding. And that's why was isn't it going to happen? But
fantastic.
Government's put its money on the table. Combined authorities put its money on the table. So it will definitely happen. And we're just now at the stage of tendering for the contracting works. And I'm expecting diggers in the ground by the end of the year.
Brilliant.
Trains by 2023.
Fantastic. That was my next question. When do you think we'll be live?
Hopefully, well, the plan, barring something going wrong in the contracting...
Pandemic.
exactly, is the end of 2023. So
okay.
Not that long.
So within touching distance, really, you look at these kind of projects.
But the critical thing is, Andy, it will definitely now happen. We've cleared all the hurdles. And so it's just the contracting now.
Got the green light.
And then what's going to happen? Well, I think it's going to be an incredible tonic for that whole route. We know that the number of people commuting along that line on the 50 bus into town, that there's a huge number of people. But actually having a really first-class train service is going to make a big difference.
Changer.
It will. So I think you might see a nice...
brilliant
stimuli to the property market in those areas.
What we love. Just sticking with trains and stations then, obviously I saw something recently about the university station, getting some funding again for it to be remodelled almost ahead of the Commonwealth Games, I think.
So we're actually spending, I think it's £56 million on that.
Wow.
It is going to be an incredible new station. Welcome to that part of the city, which of course has got the university, the QE medical, I call it whole estate. So many people using that.
It's a very busy connector, isn't it? Yeah.
Very busy, busier than I think Crewe Station, that centre of old railway industry. And I remember when the current station opened in 1970, something going to sound very, very old. I was a schoolboy using it. And but from then it's gone from that to an incredibly important link.
Yeah.
So we build a great station, and it will have a sort of welcome to the university, facilities for the health service as well. So it's going to be something to be really proud of. And the diggers are in the ground, tight programme to be ready for the Commonwealth Games.
Brilliant. Commonwealth Games then?
Yes.
Huge for the city. Again, lots of talk. Will it, won't it? We're on course, I assume. Everybody's plugging into that.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
We are on course.
Brilliant.
So, all credit to the contractors who've gone ahead with their building works and I think, are confident despite the pandemic. So that's looking good. So whether that be the athletic stadium, the swimming pool, or whether it be the transport connections that have got to be made for it, everything is on track. And with a bit of luck, and I know we wish ill to Tokyo, but if they're not able to have visitors for the Olympic Games this year, ours will be the first international celebration like this to have visitors back. And that will be an incredible thing for us, a brilliant opportunity for us, for jobs for local people.
Put the region on the map as well, internationally.
Internationally showing the region. Yeah. So such an important opportunity.
And is part of the transport vision about connecting these other areas? We mentioned Walsall, Dudley, etc., Brierley Hill. Is it about, again, stimulating those areas? Because, again, we're in danger of having a bit of a super city here in Birmingham, and, you know, the forgotten cities around the Midlands could be...
It's a very important question. Yeah. And I have been very, very careful to be mayor for all of the West Midlands. Now, you have naturally talked about Birmingham because of your business focus here. Fair enough. That's absolutely correct. But I have been mayor for all. And if you look where the money's been spent, actually, per head of population, Coventry, Dudley, Sandwell, all done really well. Yeah, brilliant. And actually, more than Birmingham.
And I'm a Black Country boy, so I'm very pleased with that.
Excellent. Yeah. But Dudley's a fascinating example, actually, in terms of how the infrastructure that's gone in with the metro going there has been the catalyst for lots of other things coming along the route, and a real regeneration in the town centre. Definitely. So the new very light rail centre coming there, right alongside it, new high-tech business there. Of course, what's going on with the town centre regeneration that we call Portersfield, and the housing development there. And even talk now, this has not been landed, about the council applying for a campus of the University of Worcestershire to become a university place. Now, that is a real breakthrough.
You heard it here first.
So, there we are. So, that proves what some investment can do to drive odds on. And that's how we think. If you think of Walsall, the work we're doing there in the town centre, at Sadler's Quays, at the sort of new urban splash development there, what's happening at Phoenix 10. And of course, the Wolverhampton story is also a very optimistic one at the moment, with the government relocation of the Ministry for Housing there. Definitely, perhaps been the thing that we're most excited by. Yeah,
I think there's some real big wins, you know, and some great stories that have happened for like you say, the wider West Midlands, not just focusing on the city. So yeah, well done. I suppose lastly then, as a local independent family-run business, which we are, how can we and what can we expect to see from the combined authorities and you as mayor, really, to help us through this pandemic and the transition out of lockdown back into normality?
So I guess there's two answers to that. The first, I hope people would already say I've been doing this. The government have the most money, not us locally, but what I can do is make sure that blinking will spend it
on us.
Spend it on us here. So lobbying away to, one, get all the business support that occurred. And of course, during the pandemic, when they didn't put the money on the table for business support for us, when the tiering came in, I hope I was very quick to say, hang on a minute, this isn't right. So that's important. And of course, running up to the budget, I've been part of many, many people talking about the extension of all the support services, because that's very important for small businesses. It's not just about getting them reopened, it's about helping them through the recovery. Definitely. So there's all that. And then the second thing we can do is contribute to the whole sort of, let's call it the support for the actual opening itself. Direct responsibility, of course, for the transport piece, which is critical. People have got to feel safe, secure, on it, and I'm sure we can do that, actually, and we've run the transport system well throughout all the pandemic, actually. Agreed. And then of course the other thing is the marketing around open for business, and there will just be some of that to support the business districts around that as well.
Fantastic.
And then again, I guess the next thing is making sure that the investment continues in the way in which it has, whether it be housing regeneration, and just think of the money that we've just agreed with the developers down for the Stone Yard in Digbeth. Big scheme, huge scheme. Huge. That's going to create jobs. That's activity. And there are many more in the pipeline like that.
Lovely. Finally from us then, we ask all of our guests, describe to us your dream home.
My dream home, okay. Well, I'm probably lucky that I've already got it in one sense, but I haven't been able to go to it. Okay. So as so many people from the West Midlands, I love escaping to Snowdonia. And I do have a place there, which is on the hillside near Cadair Idris. And it's not grand in any way, but it's just the location. You look out and you see one of the most beautiful green valleys, I think, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And, peppered with sheep. And it certainly isn't
a lovely part of the world.
Certainly isn't a place you go for the weather.
Yeah.
But it is my perfect escape. So that's
fabulous. I can see your eyes have lit up already.
After lockdown, it's what I'm really
when you can cross the
forward
border
to.
finally.
Going back to Wales, being in that beautiful territory.
Fantastic.
So sharp contrast to living in the centre of Birmingham.
Yeah.
But I think that is a dream to go back there.
Brilliant. Well, I know you're a very busy man, Andy, so thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the upcoming elections.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you found that really interesting. I know we definitely did. And we'll catch you soon on the next episode of Centrick Talks Property. Thanks, Andy. It was brilliant.
Okay, but
Yeah.
all seem to whiz by.